Okay, let's start. Hello, everyone. This is the past Computation Element working group meeting in Bangkok. So you already spent a first day on site, so you should be aware that the session is recorded and that you should use the mics before saying anything. So the not well. Not the first session. So, quick reminder that there are IETF policies about intellectual property. So, anything you may say, share, or be aware of related to IPR should be declared within the IETF following the processes. So, make sure you are familiar with those rules. There are a few pointers there, so you should be aware of them, but in case you have any doubt, please refer to the references here. With more details, some kind of conduct reminder. We are human beings supposed to work in a constructive way and respectfully with other people. So if you feel that there are complex situations or situations that should be looked at in a detailed manner, please make sure that the people in charge are aware of that situation and don't hesitate to ask for guidance, whether it be with the chairs or with people like the unbossed people, to have a look in case you have any doubt in a situation. So we still are working now in a mixed environment. There are people on site and people remote. Any of them should join the virtual queue using the Metico application, full or light, whatever. We as chair will give the floor to the people on the in first come first served basis. And for people remote, ideally use a headset with a decent mic to make sure that people can hear you, especially in the room. What sometimes the sound isn't as good as for people in other remote sites. So we gave a test with Samuel and Oliver. I hope it's okay for me as well. Sorry for not being on site this time. Hopefully next time I'll be there. So we have collaborative minutes. Andrew, our secretary, is in charge, but if you want to give him a hand, especially for your point that you may make on the mic or to check that your names are correctly spelled, you may look at this link. On about the Mythica audio, please remind that you're supposed to wait for the chair to give you the floor before speaking to make sure we don't have several people speaking at the same time. There is a chat also available, and there's a connection between the Mythico chat and the ZeroLib tool, so you may connect using any of those tools. A reminder about the way we work in the IETF. We do some work using the mailing list, so try to be the more vocal you can on the mailing list. This is the preferred tool to share the progresses, the questions, the comments that you may have related to the past computation element work. Make sure that we have enough material to judge about the consensus as chairs. So the mailing list is the place to go when you have anything to say or to share about the past competition element working group or technology. We also have a wiki related to the document states and especially our various queues for working group adoptions or working group calls. We have a GitHub, so the links are embedded in the slide. And we also handle regular requests for helical point allocation. So some of them are tracked later in the slides. So, as you may be aware, this is time for area director change. So, this is the time for us to thank John for his strong involvement in the routing area. And he was the AD for the PCE working group for long. So, thanks, John, for all your involvement and guidance along your terms as area director. And it's also time for warmly welcome Ketan as a new area director for the PC working group. So make sure that the transition will be smooth between both of them, and everyone should be familiar with Ketan already. So I guess this won't be a problem to embed it in the work and the discussion. Want to add anything, Drew?
No, just want to thank John for all your support, all your guidance. Thank you. And I hope you'll still come to our meetings.
I love your meetings. Of course, I'll come. And thank you. Thank you for being such an easy group.
You're welcome.
And welcome, Ketan.
So the agenda, it's been shared over the mailing list. So I hope there is no bashing happening. Last opportunity to comment otherwise. If no one is saying anything, let's move on. So milestones. We had some milestones. Some were already reached. Some need to be updated. So we propose to the AD the update as follows. We believe that there is no showstopper there. It's quite consistent with the work we have in progress within the working group. We don't want to track all the draft as a dedicated milestone. Doesn't make much sense, but the major one should be tracked at least to show clear progress of the work within the working group. The working group status. You want to take the floor here, or I continue, Drew, for a while?
I think you continue. I'll take over from the working group
Okay.
documents.
So we have two new RFCs that came out over the past few days. So thanks to the DID for the last effort. It's starting to flush a bit the queue that we have. There are 5 IDs remaining with the area director, or 5 with the RFC editor. Some with interdependency, though. So some have to wait for other documents that are in progress. But the good news is that it's globally progressing. We can expect a few more RFCs issued within the upcoming weeks. So from the publication perspective, it seems that we have reached a decent pace. And we have one document with the area director that is scheduled on the telechat for near future. I don't have the date there. So I was mentioning the process for Ellicott point allocation. We have several ones that we tracked within the PC working group for various documents. Several of them were recently renewed. One of us even missed as a reminder by Diana, but since Drav is already tracking everything, he managed to get the code point renewed in an efficient time frame. So the situation is resolved already. The multipass has been renewed for several times, so clearly this is a reminder that this document should be put on high on the agenda to make sure that the document is published in a reasonable time frame, and that the early allocation becomes a final allocation to the mechanism in the multipass draft. So other issues, we have two or a couple of liaisons coming from other SDOs. One collectively sent to some working group within the voting area, and the response has been sent by Deborah, who's the liaison to the ITUT a couple of weeks ago. And we have other liaison coming from the HC. One targeted mainly to CCAMP, but with close dependencies to the PCE working group. So this is sometimes for information, and we try to respond when needed. Sometimes it's just a matter of keeping the SDO in sync and make sure that everyone is aware of what's happening in the other SDO. So we have a polite relationship with both the ITUT and the HC, and we try to make sure that we keep this correct relationship between them and us. So let's go to the details on the working group documents, and I'll leave the floor to Prof.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. So we'll quickly go over our working group documents. We have two documents, which is in working group last call. Any of the authors, if they want to come to the mic and give any updated status, feel free, but this is as per my knowledge and what's there on the wiki. So for the SID algo draft, actually it's pending on me. I have finished the Shepherd report. Mostly few things are pending that I want to recheck, and at the end of the meeting, I will respond. So this is going to move forward. Then we have the early reviews from routing and ops already. So I think we should be sending this to Ketan very, very soon. We have the state sync draft. The working group last call is over. There are comments received that are not responded to yet. So authors, please respond to those comments so that we can progress on these as well. So these are two documents which are completed last call. The next set is our queue of documents which are nearing working group last call. We have identified that bidirectional part is ready. So is the PCC SR1. The flex grid, the authors have updated, but we want to get a confirmation from them that yes, it's ready for working group last call. Most of them are not in the meeting here today, so I will track that on the mailing list as well. But this is just an information that these are the next set of documents that will be last called. Nearing working group last call, we have the path segment. It's from PC side, it's mostly ready, but it has dependencies on other document. So there's no point rushing on to it. We'll wait for Spring and other documents to get over first, and then we'll take it up. We have circuit style. Actually, there's a mistake. It's not on the agenda, but it is making good progress. It's missing manageability section. That's something that we try to always add in our PC documents, and I have highlighted that in my report as well. Same as with entropy label position, mostly ready, but missing two sections. Please add implementation section, please add manageability section, and we will move it to ready for working group last call. And then PCEP LS as well. The authors have told us, I wear both hats in this case, that the document is ready and we will be moving it to the working group last call queue after this. So if there is any concerns, please let us know. A bunch of other documents which are nearing working group last call. We have IFIT. It's been presenting multiple times. Again, implementation section and manageability section is missing. We have PCC SRv6. Implementation section is missing. Auto bandwidth, implementation section, and manageability section is missing. So if you think that your document is ready, make sure add this to your checklist. Make sure these two sections are included. We talked about multipath around INA renewal as well. So this is, I think I request authors to prioritize this work. There is an open issue when it was last discussed. There were comments that this document is going beyond what is there in the Spring SR policy architecture RFC. So an answer is needed whether it's a good idea, bad idea, but not responding is going to just block the work. So please prioritize this. Other working group IDs, interdomain, it's on the agenda. P2MP policy is on the agenda. L2 flow spec, if you remember, when we were doing the flow spec work, we removed the L2 aspects into a separate document. There is an update made by authors here, and one issue was identified, which was with respect to the INA policy that we created, which was specification required. And this document says that let's go and update that to IETF review in alignment to what we have done for all the other PCEP INA policies as well. And one thing we also noticed that even though we said specification required, we did not give any clear guidelines on how the designated expert is supposed to handle that. So this is a fix, an update to the previous flow spec RFC that this document is trying to fix. So if anybody has any thoughts, please respond on the mailing list for this. Other documents, we have Path MTU. It is waiting for the Spring Working Group document, and other work like SRV6 Yang, which has no update. The beer documents had seen a major update, so please review. If and unluckily we have a clash with beer at this moment of time, so I will also post this status on the mailing list so that authors can respond. We have control ID space that is no update this time, but it's almost getting ready. And then we have a new document which was adopted, which was BFD parameters. Please handle all the comments that you received during the working group adoption poll and respond to them quickly. Thank you. And this is our working group adoption queue. As we said, we maintain it on our wiki. If there is a need to us to shuffle things around, if there is a need, please come and talk to us. It's not a strict queue, but we need your feedback on what to progress with proper reasoning. So this is our current queue now. One of the documents that we were highlighting before was the PCE operational. It's on the agenda as well. So hopefully we will be able to make some progress today on that as well. There was one document about PC resource sharing that has been revived, and please review. We want to check whether there is interest in that work, and if it is, we will move it back to the working group adoption queue again, based on, even though it failed during the last time, it's time for us to relook at this problem again. And with that, I thank you, and let's start our working group session. Zafar. Julian, will you share the slides?
Okay.
I can also try, but I thought since it's working at your end, I didn't want to touch it.
Thank you.
I can also try.
For the slides to come up.
I'm not able to share. So, Julian, please try.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can this time.
Oh, it stopped working again. Oh. Shall I go and share the screen then? We'll figure it out for the next presentation then. Oh, I can see it now. Perfect. It's coming. Awesome.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Zafar Ali. I'm from Cisco. I'm going to present this draft on behalf of my co-authors. Next slide, please.
You have the clicker.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So just a little bit of a history, and problem statement will follow, but this draft was presented during the last IETF, and that time we did mention to the working group that is another draft in the same area, and the authors are working together to merge the draft. So the version in front of you is the merged draft of the two. So I thank you for the authors from the other draft for collaboration, and together we want to look forward further to advance this document. Now, let's go back to the progress statement just to reiterate what we also discussed last time, is that when we have an SR policy, the SR policy endpoint may be in the SID list, so the endpoint node SID. And policy may be carrying service that locator of the service will also carry the traffic to the endpoint. So if we don't know to anything, then the policy, then you will have duplicate SIDs. One is the policy endpoint carrying traffic to the endpoint, the node SID, and the other is the service on top. That would be, so if we don't apply this procedure, then the end point has to process two back-to-back SIDs. And it's inefficient for the endpoint processing point of view, and also inefficient from the point of MTU processing and MSD aspects for the programming. So in the cases when the policy is ending on the endpoint node ID, and traffic that is steered is also carrying, let's say service that is already carrying located with that node SID, then we suggest in this draft that the duplicate SID, which is the node SID, is not programmed when installing the policy. Okay. But it is a property of what traffic is carried over the policy, so it's not always deterministic. So you have use cases, and also the SID list of the policy. So if, say, for instance, your policy SID list ends on the agency SID as the last SID, then there is no removal possible, because that SID is actually part of the traffic engineering for the policy, and there is no duplicate SID. Similarly, if you are in an interworking environment where you have MPLS traffic, SRv6 policy carried MPLS traffic, then you want the traffic to take you to the endpoint. So this, you cannot suppress the node SID. So go over a summary of changes. So the first change that we made is going back to the comment received during the last presentation, and that was that we were carrying the attribute to have this flag to indicate whether the PCC should suppress the node SID or not, or include or exclude in the LSP extended flag TLV. And the comment was, this is not SR, that container is not SR specific, and it was commented out that we find a different place which is more SR specific, because this change is very SR specific. So we propose a new SR policy attribute TLV for the policy association object. And the policy association object is defined in the routing policy CP draft. And within that object, we took one bit to flag the inclusion or not inclusion of the RAS SID. The other part of this processing, which is for the peer, the PCC peer, to establish capability to understand this SID, remain unchanged. So there is no change in the text regarding what was presented and shared last time. There was another comment about MSD consideration. And MSD consideration comes from the fact that when you have an opportunity to suppress the last SID, then you can compress and you can make, based on the device MSD capability, you can actually being able to carry that one more extra SID. So this thing comes into play because when PCE computes a path and the path is exceeding the MSD, then the PCE has to determine that it needs to install transit SIDs. So in such cases, if you find that there is an opportunity to suppress the last SID, so maybe there is no need to install the transit SID. So this is all part of the MSD consideration. When PCE compute the path is always computed end to end. So path always takes you to the endpoint node, but then you have ability to consider SID list to be one less than the SID list of the path that is computed if PCE is instructing the device to suppress the last SID. So that is what is mentioned in the MSD consideration section. Authors have been working with the working group. We welcome any additional feedback, and we also like for working group adoption of the draft.
Andrew?
Andrew Stone, Nokia. I'm just going to echo, we actually just had a conversation about an hour ago, Safar and I. I'm just going to relay it to the group. The document right now currently reads very PC init oriented. And the MSD section, thank you for adding that, it's really good. But it might be good to either clarify if it is intentionally only PC initiated, or also consider what does it look like if it's PCC initiated. So there could be value in, like you mentioned about MSD, when you're computing, informing, if it's a PCC initiated, informing the PC, hey, by the way, you've got one more SID under these circumstances. You know, if you do think you're going to program a path where the final SID is a node SID, cool, you've got one more SID you can use because I'm not going to use that last SID, right, when I push it. So it might be good to just compare the PCC init and PC init. Thank you.
So Andrew, thanks again. Many thanks for your comment and offline discussion. Appreciate that. Yes, we agree that we can add the coverage for the PCC initiated policies and consideration. So we can add that.
There was also a comment about like having a common document in Spring. Do you have any further thoughts, any more discussion that this document exists in IDR as well as in PCE? Do we need somewhere common to define this or no?
Yeah, so there was a comment from Bruno, Spring Chair, during the last, during the IDR session. And the action item is to, for authors to talk with Bruno and also look for guidance from PCE chairs and the IDR chairs in terms of what is the right thing to do, and where we will take it like that. So if there's, you say that yes, you should write a document in Spring, then we will take that route. But please guide us.
Andrew, go ahead.
I would just kind of caution though in this specific one, because the IDR one did talk about the eligibility as well. There was some overlap. I think I might be mixing the two up. My only thing would be that the behavior of PCC init isn't necessarily often discussed in Spring. PC init, BGP, there's a lot of overlap there, and so those could be covered in Spring. I find the PC init is kind of a very unique case to PCE group, as opposed to top push down controller pushing something down with PC init or BGP. So that's just a thought on that.
And that's what I think, like, maybe the Spring is the right place to talk in a more neutral terms, and whereas the extensions can come and focused in PCE. Any further comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-oh. Let me stop sharing first. Okay. Not able to. I have to do the screen share. Oh, All slots. Oh, Julian, go ahead. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Olivier, you should have slide control.
Yeah, thanks. So hello everybody. This is a short presentation of last update regarding the PCEP extension for stateful interdomain tunnel. So, yeah, this one. Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay. So small update since previous version. So the last presentation was done regarding the version 4. And we released three new versions since this last presentation. So in version 5, we mostly introduce and describe how the interdomain path could be managed and in particular updated. And for that purpose, we introduce a new capability for interdomain. With a new BRPC capability for the recursive method and a new and update the hierarchical PCE capability for hierarchical method. And we also update the interdomain association group. This is to ease the interdomain path. And I will have a focus on the how it is working with this new PCE notification. Version 6 is a simple refresh. In particular, we update the reference since the binding seed draft become an RFC. So we just update the reference. And the last version published just before this IETF meeting introduced the support for services. Service 6, and we describe how we could have this interworking interoperability between MPLS and Service 6 in order to let operator smoothly manage their domain like they want. So regarding the interdomain path management, if you remember, the first PCE in the chain is the owner of the interdomain path. So this first PCE could update, modify, change, removed the interdomain path, but subsequent PCE and subsequent domain could not modify or change anything in the domain. They just could send a PC report message telling that there is some problem. But for good management and really independent management of the interdomain path from the different operator in the chain, we need to signal to PCE1 to request some modification. So for that purpose, we introduced a new PC notification message type and with different value. And in particular, we have introduced two new values, one to request modification and one to withdraw. So at a certain moment, if a domain would not continue to participate to this interdomain path, they could signal it to PCE1. So whatever the next domain who send this PC notification message, this PC notification message, it's conveyed back to PCE1. And when a PCE1 receives this interdomain PC notification message, it must request a new path by means of recursive or hierarchical method to recompute the end-to-end interdomain path. And this includes the possibility to change the border node during this step. And eventually, in the case of a domain would withdraw, it's also be possible to change the AS path and so to change domain that will participate to this interdomain path. And once this path recomputed, the PCE1 starts to update the interdomain path by sending a PC update message. And former domain would keep the their old the former local path, waiting from a PCE1 to send a last PC notification message with value 3. in order to signal that this is the end of the process. And in particular for domain that we've grown or domain we have changed, border node, etc. This is the signal to remove the former local path that constitute the previous version of the interdomain. So second big step is introduction of SRv6 support. So in fact, the binding seed with this RFC 9604 allowed to request an SRv6 seed. And because the principle of this draft is to request some special binding seed to border node in order to automatically stitch the local part of the interdomain path, we could also request not an MPLS binding seed, but an SRv6 binding seed. And in this case, the stitching label is replaced by this SRv6 binding seed with an n.b6 or n.b6.onCaps behavior in order to replace the path from domain I from domain I+1. And SRv6 and X seed is also used to address the interdomain link between border node, like we do in MPLS with BGP peer engineering. And again, BGP link state extension for SRv6 allowed to collect this SRv6 peer seed. And we add a new flag in the interdomain capability, both recursive and hierarchical, for this support of SRv6. And we describe also the interoperability with MPLS. And there is a new draft in a Spring Working Group that describe this interworking between MPLS and SRv6. And also we based this interworking on SR policy described in RFC 8402. And there is a small modification, enhancements regarding this different RFC and draft is because in our case, the gateway is not a single node, because the gateway should be located in border node. So we distinguish in for the two scenario, SRv6 to MPLS, MPLS to SRv6. We describe the two scenario disregarding if a gateway is located in a border node of domain I or domain I+1. And what we could say is that it's operator free to decide where will be this interoperability, and it's based on a per bilateral agreement between domains. So it could be different from one domain to another in interdomain points. And what is important is that if a gateway is located in domain I+1, we keep the possibility to find select the interdomain link, but this imposes on domain I+1 to manage both technology, while if we don't want to manage both technology in a border node, so keep technology different, in this case, we lose this capability to find select the interdomain link. So in terms of implementation, just to summarize, so we introduce new capability, new association group, new error message, and new PCEP notification for establishment, update, and management of this interdomain path. And with SRv6, we have an open question for the stitching label name, because stitching label refer to MPLS technology, and we need also to embrace SRv6. And so we ask the group to what will be the better wording for this stitching. Is it a stitching seed, interdomain identifier, or simply use the binding seed terminology? So feel free to answer during questions or on the mailing list. So the next version will introduce some remark that we got from Yana review, and of course, don't hesitate to send your comments, and then we'll certainly request some early code points as I intend to develop this draft for Open Daylight and to have a first reference implementation of the draft. Thanks.
Any question for Olivier? Andrew?
Just a question about the notify aspect. Would it be fair to say that the notify function is essentially the PCC, or in this case, the PCE, so the speaker asking for a resignal or a recalculation of a delegated LSP? Would that be a fair summary?
The PC notification message we introduce is between PCE, but
Yeah.
yes, we could envisage that a PCC could request such PC notification. In fact, if you look to PC initiative, PC initiate, the PCC at any moment could request the redelegation or ask the PCE to modify or recompute the path. It could just send a PC report telling that the path is down or goes to down state, but that's all. And perhaps this PC notification message could be of larger use just regarding this specific use case in the interdomain draft. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just thinking operationally today, for example, if you want to refresh, right, a path, so an operator wants to refresh a path, well, they might be looking at the PCC and they go, oh, you know what, I want to kick this, I want to refresh it. If it's delegated, they now either need to, the PCC needs to simulate a delegation or revocation or an operationally down kind of behavior, as opposed to, oh, now I need to go log into my PCE and, resignal it, refresh it from there. Compared to maybe they're locally on the PCC, I can say, hey, please refresh. And that sends up this notify message to PCE saying, you still control it, but please refresh me. I'm just wondering if maybe there could be operationally some value for that or not. But
yeah, we could, we could also add this, yes.
I think the current notifications, what they have defined, they're specifically targeting for stateful interdomain, which makes sense, but it's a good idea to think, is there a scope to generalize this for other cases as well? Any other questions? Let me add myself in the queue as well. First of all, thank you for making progress. I think you have been updating and responding to all the comments that are being received. That's good, but we need more reviews, as in the document is also getting a little bit more complex. There are multiple ways. There is BRPC procedure, there is HPC procedure. Now SRv6 is coming in. So as and when we are adding more complexity, we need more reviewers. Are there any volunteers that we can ask in the room today who could volunteer to review? We have Boris, minute taker. Please note down the names so that we can remind them. Boris and Oscar, thank you so much. And we need more reviews for this document. With respect to naming, can we go to the previous slide? I think since we like to debate about names, that's IETF's favorite thing. Any thoughts on anyone? What should we call it? I think changing from stitching label makes sense. When the document was originally written, we were focusing only on MPLS. So stitching label is the name that the authors picked. Any thoughts from folks on the names? Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
I agree with changing from stitching label because of the SRv6. Because the draft, at least when I last read it a while back, still had RSVP-based solution in there, I don't know if binding SID would also be applicable, but I also like binding SID, so I actually don't have a concrete name for it other than somewhere in between the two of those might be good.
Okay.
Boris Kassanov, I would vote for binding SID because it's more common and we are likely to reuse the same term from
Yeah.
my opinion.
Okay.
Just a
Okay.
reminder, that was
And wait.
Boris. And next time, Boris, please join the queue. Thank you. Samuel?
I would vote for binding seed as well, for simplicity.
Can you say that
Okay.
again? I was not able to hear.
Yeah, I was just saying that I would vote for binding seed as well.
Okay. And we have Adrian, the terminology master.
Hi, it's Adrian. It's slightly flippant suggestion here, but what about path key? So I say that having not read this draft for a very long time, but it seems like the concept here is that we want to put some identifier in that identifies or can expand to the next piece of path. Maybe we already have that.
Good comment. Something to think about. Authors, why don't you start a thread on this, on the mailing list? That will get you some eyeballs on your document as well. It's always fun to ask questions about naming to get the bigger discussion on your draft going. I have one question related to the association group aspects as well. Are we worrying about the scalability of that? Like, is it every path would require a new association group to be created?
Yes, just because you need this association group per interdomain path, because the association group will give a reference between this end-to-end interdomain path and the local path. And each PCE will maintain local reference association with this end-to-end association reference.
Yeah, so
And the end-to-end association reference is provided by PCE1. And so because PCE1 is whatever PCE, we have a combination that it's a scale without problem, because the goal is not to provide this interdomain path for the whole internet, only for a very subset of connectivity.
Yeah, but just a suggestion to handle it hands-on, add a scalability section or something which covers this aspects as well. One final question, and then I'll give it to Zafar. We do both BRPC and HPC. It would also be a good idea to figure out whether we actually require both. Are there implementations or deployment that is doing both? Are people more relying on HPC or more relying on BRPC? I know we have a history of doing multiple procedures, but it would also be a good idea to understand what's actually being deployed. And as Orange, you would have your thoughts, but it would be good to get inputs from other operators as well.
Okay.
Thank you. And Zafar?
Zafar Ali from Cisco Systems. Just one comment on the last question that you have here. I'm not following the draft very closely, but if the concept is that it's also an identifier for the forwarding, then binding seed is the best match, in my opinion.
Okay. Thanks, Zafar.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Let me see. Oh, thank you, Julian.
Thanks, everybody.
See that?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, you can't.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Juan Xiong from ZT. I will present the PCE extensions for topology filter. First, let's see the updates from the last version. This has been presented at IETF 112. It's a long time. And thank you for the comment from the Doof and Jaedong. And since the IETF's young topology filter has been adopted and the RC 9552 has been published. So I think it's a good start to pick up this work. So the updates from the last version is like following. It has been aligned with the data model as per the topology filter Yang and the information T information from the FZ 9552, and we changed the topology object to a topology filter object to indicate it more clearly. And we also changed the TLV name and the format to IGP domain and identifier TLV and the TE topology identifier TLV. We add a new filtering rules TLV and put some sub TLVs under it. So let's recap of the overview of the topology filter. A topology filter is a date contrast that can be applied on either a native topology or a user-specified topology. And so it can be viewed as a set of filtering rules to contrast of the specific topology. So this document proposes a set of extensions for PCEP to support the topology filter to contrast or specify the topology during the past computations. For example, there are some scenarios to computer the specifying the path among specifying the topology. For example, the path may be computed within a topology, such as specifying the topology or topology associated with a specific IGP domain, topology not from a specific TE information source, or a topology associated with an NRP in slice network. So there are more scenarios to be added. So we propose a new topology filter object to for that extensions. This is a new object to indicate the topology filter, and we also propose mailing TLVs under it. There are 3 new TLVs in that object. For example, the IGP domain identifier, the TE topology identifier, and the filtering rules. The 3 TLVs are proposed to indicate the model from the topology filtering Yang. So this is the specific TLV format, the IGP domain identifier TLV, and it can identify an IGP domain within a reference topology. For example, the protocol ID, instance ID, or SPF area ID, and the multi-topology ID. As defined in RFC 9552, and the T topology identifier TLV, it can identify a predefined T topology within a reference topology. It may refer to the provider ID, client ID, topology ID as defined in RFC 9552. And the next one is the topology filtering rules TLV. It can carry a set of constraints on the topology by include island, including war, and exclude rules. So we have proposed a new format for that filtering rules, and we propose some sub-TLV to carry the attributes that can be used to filter the topology. First one, this is the include adding include-or and exclude filtering rules. The sub-object, the sub-TLV will be the link ID sub-TLV, admin group TLV, and the source protocol TLV, sub-TLV. They are proposed in the topology filter YAM to construct the topology. So we try to reflect the IETF's filter topology YAM model. So we construct the topology from the PCEP view. So we are not sure about the word format. So comments and the discussions are very welcome. Thank you.
Any questions? Samuel, go ahead.
Samuel Sierra, Francisco. One question about the domain identifier. What I can see are multiple fields there. So how that filter works? Do I always need to set all the fields in that object, or some of them may be unset, and in such case it is considered as kind of loose filter, or how it works?
Samuel, you are talking about this figure too?
Yeah, exactly. The IGP domain identifier TLV. So should I set all of them always to be able to filter the topology to specific domain only?
Yeah, I completely agree. This should also be turned into sub-TLV like you are doing for other things. Since algorithm ID and MTID, these things could be optional. Better to do it as sub-TLVs. And if there is in future some new identifier, it's easy for us to extend also. So like how you have created sub-TLV for filtering,
yes,
same thing we can do for IGP domain as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because, for example, the algorithm ID 0 is also valid algorithm. So even if it was set to 0, then basically we are not sure whether it is unset, the filter is unset, or we are trying to limit it to algo 0 only.
Agree. Zafar.
Zafar from Cisco. I'm trying to understand the overlap of these things with the constraints. And so you give a constraint. Let's say you talk about the NRP. NRP is a constraint. You provide a constraint, and then PCE does its own filtering and give you a path based on the filter topology. So what I'm kind of struggling is that what are all of these parameters in that context? What is the relationship of these with the constraints? Why we are doing something parallel to that? And also there's a lot of fields like provider ID, client ID. All of these things are not so clear. But anyway, is my comment clear?
To me it is. Authors, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, we will clarify between the existing the constraints. But from my view, we try to construct the whole picture of all the kinds of topology. So we will cover the NRP, all kinds of IGP domain identifier. But the TLVs or the TLVs are optional, but the filtering rules is mandatory.
I think what we need to clarify is how it works with other constraints, which could be like all of them needs to be satisfied. If both filtering, metric, and RP, which is true for PCEP in general, like, or we can also use we have those relaxed flags in the object header. That could be one way for us to say that, like, what is the most important constraint versus what's best effort in a way. I think the document needs to add this more. And in fact, one thing which comes to my mind now, right now you are saying that you have all the 3 TLVs. I'm thinking they should not be used together, like only one of them at a time? Is
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
So those things also should be clarified, that either use IGP domain or T topology order, because if you start using all of them, it's just going to be too complicated.
Yeah.
So please add those details in the documents as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, please, we need those kind of details, especially with overlap with, like what needs to happen when you have constraint and you have this, what is the relationship, all of those details. Thank you.
Andrew?
Just want to echo the same thing as Samuel that you mentioned about the configuration being optional. So for example, if I wanted to filter on a specific ISIS instance, which is an IGP domain process, I wouldn't fill in an OSPF area.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to have that treated separately, and then each TLV you can get, or some TLV you can kind of tack on and just being another level of filtering, right, to build that filter query. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew, next is you. I think we both keep trying, at least one of them gets success. That's what's happening.
We're testing Metacore.
Okay, so hopefully it works now. So I'll be presenting this one document that has now became two documents on behalf of the co-authors. Let's jump into it. So a little bit of history, all right. Basically, some point between 2016 and obviously still ongoing today, there's lots of multi-vendor interop that's taken place, right? Those activities have happened, bugs have been found, misunderstandings have been clarified, interop has been successful. So in 2019, July 2019 was really, we decided let's capture this, right, as a working, members of the working group, capture all these learning experiences that kind of took place. Really was to kind of document what was observed, what was implemented, what was clarified, recommendations, right, kind of mishmash of here's the state of stateful interop. That document had incremental updates. It was presented at IETF 105, 110, 114. That's the operational draft. Between 2019 and 2022. And then at basically end of the year 2022, we seemed to conclude as a working group that yes, this work is valuable, let's adopt it. There was a poll and a consensus that was given that said some of the content of the document was purely informational. You know, here's how you should interpret something, as opposed to here is a clear statement that we're saying that is a formal, you are allowed to do this or you're not allowed to do this. So we basically decided to split the document up between informational and an actual RFC update. And then people got busy. It's really kind of what it boils down to, right? What was intended to be documented has happened in reality. The interop has obviously been successful, and things just kind of went to the side. So the document kind of expired. And it's been obviously referenced a few sessions now of, hey, this is something that we want to get adopted. It is good for the working group. So here we are now in March 2025 to try to kickstart it again. So the actual document content, the operational draft, it covered stateful bring up, right? It introduced that kind of concept, which gets rid of PC requests and lets you just say, hey, here's my down path, let's report it. There was some descriptions and separations of what it means between a PCEP tunnel versus a PCEP LSP, right? That subtle difference, what that means in the encoding. How do you interpret the identifiers? What is a PLSP ID, right? It just elaborated that a lot more. It also described some clarifications and walked through about association LSPs, right? Again, just clarifying things. How do you do constraint removal for objects? That was also described. And then also a general kind of discouragement of using an RRO object to signal the reported path for SR and SRv6 paths. So that's really a summary of what was in the draft. So you take those 5 blocks, the original draft, split up now into 2 drafts. Operational still remains. Operational has been converted to an informational track. Only the informational content is in it. This new stateful amendment draft brings in those 2 topics that are explicitly updating existing RFCs. So that's really the recent change that you would have seen in the new version. So the next steps for this is the operational, right? There has to be some cleanup to it. It has to be refreshed. The author list, obviously, we have to reduce down, part of the guidelines. There was a discussion on the mailing list, and it was a good suggestion by Dhruv to discuss PCE overload, right? Introduce a concept in there to just reemphasize. Obviously, PCE overload is described in an RFC, but there's still some questions on it, right? When people read that RFC. So just to kind of clarify what's going on. The stateful amendment section of it, that draft is new. It's missing security and manageability sections. There's nothing really described there yet. And in both documents, there is, when I went digging through some of the history of this, to just make sure we covered everything, there is some outstanding comments from Adrian, actually. That's on the list to make sure that those comments are, reflected in the latest versions. So finally, the whole goal of this refresh is to get working group adoption of these. So that's kind of what we're looking for. And I believe that's everything. So thank you. Maybe. Yeah, that's everything.
Yes. Any questions for Andrew? First of all, thank you for taking over and helping out. And this has useful content in this document, as you said. And and it's been there in our working group adoption queue for a long time. We said that we're happy to prioritize this, but thanks for you to taking the lead. So working group, please review, give your comments. We would be sending the adoption request for the first one, the PCE operational one, and let's wait for the things for the other document.
Yeah, and I do think because the operational is obviously it's informational and it's just kind of documenting what's already there. It's just trying to clarify it with a bit more words. To me, that one, I fully hope that one will move a bit faster than the stateful amendment. Even though the stateful amendment is actually a smaller document, but it is updating with explicit words, so we still got to be careful there a little bit.
Correct.
And you're giving us good feedback as well, Andrew. Thanks to your comment, we clearly identified that there is some consensus among implementers on this one. So this is very useful information to proceed with this document. Thank you for that.
Adrian.
Yeah, Adrian Farrell. I like the PCE operational document, but I don't imagine it would ever be an RFC. It's more of a continuing catalogue. And so a draft or adopted draft or whatever, or a wiki page, who knows which is the best way to go with that. But to have the working group behind it is a nice idea.
I think, adoption is key at this moment of time, whether we publish or keeping a living document. That's something as a working group we can decide again.
As much as I agree, there's still going to be eventually new stuff that comes in that we'd want to update. I still feel like the content that's in there is a good snapshot of what we have today. And so it's kind of like, here's a snapshot of just a re-explanation. And if we have to snapshot something new in the future, then obviously we can do that again.
Any further thoughts? Nope. Thank you. Cool. Julian, I'm not able to try. Yes, thank you. Samuel, once it's good. Samuel, you should have the slide control.
Yep, I have it. Thanks a lot for sharing. Hi all, I'm Samuel Sidor from Cisco. I'll be presenting the draft about LSP reporting extensions in PCEP on behalf of our authors. Our draft aims to improve the accuracy of LSP reporting, leading to more efficient path computation on the PC and reduction in number of unnecessary PCEP messages exchanged for a better debugging experience. We intend to use the draft as an umbrella to cover multiple smaller gaps in reporting to avoid the introduction of multiple drafts, each addressing single draft, single flag, or single small extension. We currently cover three main extensions: binding seed related extensions. These allow PC-initiated LSP instantiation even with the requested binding seed is not available, with fallback to dynamically allocated binding seed if requested. The draft is also introducing new LSP attributes to indicate if LSP is eligible to be used as a transit LSP, and what is the size of the path specified in the YARL in PC report message. So whether it is computed dynamically or specified explicitly by the operator. As specified in the slide, binding labels were introduced in PCEP RFC in RFC 9604. Binding seed allocation can be done by PCC or PCE, but the RFC also allows different PCEP peer to specify requested binding label values and other one allocating it. For example, a PCE may specify an explicit binding seed value, but the PCC allocates it without PCE maintaining complete label range. If such allocation on PCC fails, and this is important, then the PCC must reject entire PCEP request. The SR policy architecture RFC describes an alternative where the PCC can fall back to dynamic binding seed allocation if explicit specified binding seed value is not available. This requires encoding of two binding seed TLVs in the PC report message for single LSP, one for originally requested B seed and other one for the B seed which is actually allocated and used by the LSP. To allow extension described in the previous slide, 3 new flags are introduced in the path binding TLV. Since dynamic fallback requires encoding of two BC TLV instances, the draft introducing A flag, which is supposed to be set for by the PCC for the TLV instance carrying the allocated binding seed and cleared for the requested binding seed. There are another two flags to be set by the PCE for PC-initiated LSPs to indicate what should happen if the requested binding seed is unavailable. So in case of D flag set, entire request is not rejected, LSP creation is allowed, but the LSP will remain down, while the requested binding seed is unavailable. And with the F flag set, fallback to dynamically allocated binding seed is allowed on top. There is also a new capability to indicate support for these extensions. Just to highlight what has changed from previous version of the draft, the B flag was introduced, so it was not there before, and fallback was initially enabled automatically for all the LSPs based on the capability advertised, but now it is part of the binding TLV, so it can be enabled per LSP. The next extension allows marking an LSP as a transit eligible. This means the binding label of such LSP can be used in ERO of another LSP, for example, enabling policy stitching in case of computed path exceeding the MSD of the headend. Details about steering are described already in SR policy architecture, so I'm not repeating it in the draft. I'm just referring to that one. T flag in LSP extended flag TLV is set by PCC or PC based on which of them requested LSP instantiation, but only if both PC peers advertise support for the transit eligible capability. If capability is not supported by PCC or by headend, then PC may have local policy to decide on the default value. SR policy architecture already described various types of candidate paths. So section 5.1 and 5.2 are specifying explicit and dynamic candidate path types and their characteristics. So currently, PCEP lacks a way to encode this information, which is a limitation not just for SR, but for other path types as well. Our draft introduces new flag in LSP extended flag TLV, which is set if ERO of the LSP was specified explicitly by an operator and not dynamically computed by a PCP. This extension is particularly useful for PC-initiated LSP where the path is explicitly specified and PCC is connected to multiple PCs. In such case, PC which created LSP will know the path was specified explicitly, but the other PCs in the network will just see the path used on the PCC and it will not know whether it was dynamic or explicit. And if such LSP is then redelegated to another PC, the new PC may attempt to recompute the path specified explicitly originally. but the flag can be useful for PCC-initiated LSPs for debugging purposes as well. The intent is to avoid having any dependency on non-PCEP-based synchronization between PCs. So then, thank you for listening. Any comments, questions, discussion are welcome. We will continue to work on the draft and adding more clarifications and details. For example, the interaction between BSID flags, its potential use for PCC-initiated LSPs, and we plan to address some received comments as well, including renaming of the E flag in LSP extended TLV to avoid any conflicts with existing E flag, which is defined in other draft. Any comments, questions?
I have one, but if there are any questions, please join the queue. If you go previous slide, when it was last presented, there was this discussion about strict and loose path when it came to explicit. That comment has not been addressed in the document. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, for addressing the comments is still kind of pending work item for me, so and for the authors. So yeah, we will address it and we will add the details to the draft.
Okay. Otherwise, thanks for making update for the other comments as well. So Boris.
Sorry, Boris. Very short question, Samuel. What's the point for D flag when LSP is instantiated but will be kept down?
Yeah, so the D flag is allowing the LSP to be created, and basically the header is supposed to retry. So if the allocation of that binding seed will be allowed later, well, let's say there is a conflict between two different binding seeds, then header can bring up that LSP. So the LSP will be created, and header will retry and will try to bring it up again. And if that conflict is resolved, then the LSP is there and it can be created. So the PC does not need to do the retry, since PC may not know whether that label is available or not.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment.
Thank you, Samuel.
Thank you.
Louis. Five minutes.
Yeah. So this is Luis from Telefonica. I will present this new version of the path computation based on precision availability metrics document on behalf of my co-authors, Fernando, Salvatore, and Juan. So a brief recap on what is the purpose of this document. The idea is that some communication services have to be expressed in terms of service level objectives as defined in RFC 9543. So basically a statistical description of SLOs. The IPPM working group released these performance availability metrics in RFC 9544. So the idea, and just to comment that nowadays the PCE, essentially when dealing with specific metrics, they consider the instantaneous values, let's say. So the idea here would be to take into consideration these performance availability metrics for the purposes of the PCE selection of the path or computation of the path in general. So we already presented in 118, 119, and 120. Here, the changes in this version, basically we have focused, apart from the typical editorial corrections and so, on better motivating the need of a new object. In the first version, 00, we were proposing extension of existing metric object, but from that point on, we have gone in the direction of creating a new object. Reasons for that would be what we find arguments on these four. First, the fact that the notion of precision applied to the metric basically relates to the way in which the metric is defined. So probably could be a little bit weird having in the same metric object two kind of metrics relating to the same metric itself. For instance, the delay, having the delay as today, but also the delay being described as precision metric could be something, a source of confusion, basically. Second point is that not all the existing metric types currently defined in the metric object could apply to the logic of precision. So not all of them will be described in a statistical way. An example could be the number of layers on a path. Third point would be that the current structure of the metric probably it's not sufficient for, or not sufficiently flexible for permitting the description in, as the precision metric is required in terms of tires of the metric and so. So somehow we need to amend the object in any case. And finally, that the precision metric can be independent, or I mean, at the time of calculating a path, we can consider both types of metrics, or could be independently handled and can be used simultaneously or separately. We think with these 4 points and this, that probably is worth it to go in the direction of having a new object rather than reusing the existing one. So as next steps, just to comment, a mail was sent to the IPPM working group list with the idea of receiving comments from them. We already have received comments from Rudiger Geis and Greg Mirsky. We expect some further comments. In fact, we will have a lightning talk there if time permits, so hopefully yes. And then we expect more comments from them. Then the idea will be to collect the comments that we can generate today here, and with that prepare a new version. And basically the main point here is to confirm if the working group agrees on taking the direction of defining a new object or not, or reusing the existing one. So that's basically the point. Thank you.
Zafar?
Zafar from Cisco. I have a question and a comment actually. I'm not too intimate with the PAM, but when I last review it, my initial intuition was that this is something that a device can invalidate a candidate path based on, so can measure and do invalidation but not something that becomes a path compute aspects or optimization aspects. So I think we really need to understand that these attributes are truly something that are compute attributes, or just something that we actually can invalidate a candidate path because if it doesn't meet that criteria. And I'd like to hear from you, your comment on that.
Yeah. Okay, for sure. I agree. Probably we need to add more details on that. But here, the basic idea would be the devices are reporting metrics with telemetry, whatever. So there is some component that is somehow collecting these metrics and basically characterizing the leaks according to the statistical behavior. Then the PCE can take that information as a base of selecting the path. So the purpose here would be to understand what has been the behavior along the time in terms of a specific metric, so that we can somehow also have a notion of stability. If we are thinking on latency, for instance, so understand if the latency that we are requesting for a path has been maintained according to the histogram that is expected for the service, for the SLO of the service. We can consider the network slice services, for instance. So if we want network slice to behave 99.99% of the time below some latency threshold, by using this, we can assess that the path that we will select or we will compute is according to that values. But anyway, probably we need to describe this better so that it's more evident and hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need more discussion, because if you think of a link attribute or delay, that is not something that changes like this. Is the queuing, and then that is a completely different discussion. And I think, and I think the other question that I have, which is related to this, is: are you carrying this attribute in IGP?
Sorry, could you repeat?
Are you carrying these attributes, the PAM metrics, in IGP?
I mean, this will. If I got the question properly, you mean if this has some impact on IGP? Is that the question? Yeah. Not actually. I mean, because the IGP will. I mean, the reporting of the metrics will be as it is today. Just this is simply that the metrics will be collected and reported maybe in some data collector that will be the one having the history of how the links have behaved. So that should not change anything from the device. In any case, that will be a matter of how the precision metrics are reported. Nothing to do with the PCE.
let's have that discussion maybe offline.
Yeah, let's have this discussion on the mailing list. I think the confusion comes is like within PCE, our metrics were used as constraint, as computed value. There was different uses of the same object. When we are defining precision object, is it only for one particular purpose? Then that should be clarified in the document so that folks don't get confused.
Yeah, that's exactly. Thanks, Drew.
And in some ways also we should be more explicit on the interaction between the precision metric object and the metric object. If there is a delay mentioned, a value mentioned here as well as here, how would that interact? That needs to be specified.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last presentation.
Okay, PCE SR point to multi-point policy. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. So just give you a little bit of update where we are with all these drafts in different working groups. So the segment routing, the Spring multicast segment routing part is RFC now. The PIM point to multi-point policy, which is like the head end, it's actual policy that defines the multicast tree. It's in the, I think I made a mistake there, it's in the AD editorial queue. Then there's the ping, which is just the MPLS ping. Now it does not include SRv6. That's also in the AD editorial queue, and those two should become RFC very soon. There's the MVPN, EVPN, SR point to multi-point draft in BESS. That's the last call too. So basically, as you see, most of the work has been to a point of complicated completion. Sorry, I just came from beer working group, so my brain is a little bit fried. So everything is in good shape, and going to the work in this working group, which is the actual PCEP one. So very big thanks to Andrew. He did the shepherd for it. He hasn't come up with the write-up yet, but we did do a lot of cleanup. Part of the cleanup was, I know that the working group likes to move the packet workflow to Appendix A. So we moved all those stuff out of the main meat of the draft or the document. We put it into Appendix A, and all those objects that were somewhat of a mess. Again, thanks to Andrew, they've been kind of cleaned up. We beefed up the security section, so have a look at it. A couple of changes on the author list. So Reshap has changed roles, companies actually, so that was noted. And to keep the 5 authors, we moved Serenia to be a contributor, and she had contributed a lot, so she's a major contributor, obviously. Other than that, nothing has changed from technical point of view in the draft. It's stable. So I think when it comes to the INA, so we did have a bunch of assignment. So I'm going to go through the draft and include those in the draft. I think there are 2 that are still pending. There is a question that we need to answer, but since the draft is stable, and I guess we're going to get a shepherd write-up pretty soon, we are kind of hoping to go into the last call queue of PCEP. So hopefully by the time that it comes out on the other end, we do have a polished final version of the draft. That's all I got.
Please queue up if you have any questions. Just a clarification, I think shepherd review is not yet done, correct? It's just Andrew can clarify.
Yeah, I basically went through the document trying to keep the shepherd review in mind, and so I sent him some feedback on it. That was basically taken into the new one, but the actual write-up still hasn't actually happened yet. It's just kind of prepping the document for doing the write-up.
From the process point of view, we usually do the working group last call first, then comes the technically shepherd review, and then comes the write-up. But in this case, we assigned the shepherd early so that you can help with the process early.
Yeah, I think it was wasn't last IETF, I think it was before that, it was, hey, Andrew, can you approach this from a
Yes.
Shepherd review mindset? So that's kind of what the comments were.
And my suggestion would be like whatever you shared with the authors, just share it to the list so that list is aware. Right now, we did not know the Shepherd review is done.
No, so the feedback that I gave wasn't actually Shepherd review. It was just, here's some cleanup to the document, purely editorial.
Yes.
So that's really what Homan's kind of emphasizing here, is that technically nothing's changed. It's just wording and structure and formatting and sentences has just been kind of updated. So, but the actual Shepherd hasn't actually happened. So,
Ketan?
My poor English was cleaned up.
Ketan Talaulikar. Please, for the working group, please keep an eye out on the PIM SR P2MP, which is undergoing review with Gunter. Might want to follow that discussion to see that there is nothing missing in this document.
Agree. Any other comments? We would be looking for volunteers for this document as well. So please review, especially folks who have multicast background, who are active in PIM, BEER. Those were the right set of people to review this work. Please help out. Any volunteers? Ouch, mic drop.
Jeez. Yeah, so on that note, folks, I asked this last IETF there are implementation of this ongoing, right? So please, if you have any comments, do it sooner than later, because unfortunately, I think it's too late right now too. But anyway,
That's not.
there are multiple vendors that are implementing this, just FYI.
Yes, any final comments? Otherwise, we are 1 minute over. No, thank you. Thanks, everyone. See you all in Madrid.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Julian. Yes. No, for review.